Hello, 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 hello. Today I'm talking with Sarah Siebel Janssen. We talked about semi forcing people to try scary things and her experience with bad management.
I'm Yves Hanul from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it.
Hello, hello, and hello, Sarah. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
And I
I'm
say good
good. How are
morning.
you?
I'm fine as well. I'm happy always to have conversations. And I say good morning because we're both in the same time zone. It's 11 35 here in the morning on a Sunday morning. I guess it's the same for you.
Yes. And this is how I
And
wake up.
yes, wow. Well, on a Sunday morning. And I want to show also a little bit on where we are. And I'm in Ghent in Belgium, and you're in Rotterdam at this very moment, I would say. So, and I have a son that is at this moment somewhere between Amsterdam probably and Ghent, trying to come back home. So yeah, brings us for me a little bit in many things together. Now, Sarah, before we jump into the questions, what do you want people to know about you?
Wow, that's a very loaded question. What I want people to know about me. So it might be fun to mention that I've recently started a company with somebody
Mhm.
that you had an interview with a couple of weeks ago. His name
Exactly.
is Bonnema. And we started a company called Deep Red, which is deep rood in Dutch for the or Belgium for the people that can understand that. And we specialize in giving agile trainings and doing management consulting. So I'm really excited about this, and I know that he is as well.
And so just the he is this is Lawrence, and indeed the conversation was 163 for the people who were interested to watch this after listening to this interview. Indeed, and and that's all what you prefer people to know about you, or is there more?
No, no. So a little bit about myself. My name is Sarah. Obviously, it's down there as well. If you want to LinkedIn me, I've been in the agile industry for roughly 9 years now. And when people ask me, like, as what, I find it quite hard to mention that because normally people say, oh, I've been a Scrum Master for 5 years, or I've been a product owner for 3 years, or anything. So I've been all those things. I've been a Scrum Master, product owner, an Agile coach, Obeya coach since recently. So I kind of don't know how to classify myself. So a friend of mine did a identity workshop with me, trying to
Mm,
find out what or who I am, and we found the term practical agile management consultant very fitting. So
hmm.
yeah, I like. I have a lot of agile theory in my backpack, but I don't really like being a purist in that sense. So when I come to an assignment or an organization or a team, I'm not the person that's going to say, "Hey, the daily scrum is 15 minutes, guys. It's almost 50 minutes, so round up." I'll be the person that says, "Hey, how can we turn this theory into something practical that works for you?" I'm very much pragmatic in that sense. So that's why we liked the term. So I think I'll just keep that term. I like the term.
I like that as
Um,
well.
yeah. So that, and also I like to semi force people to do scary things. Of course, in a
Wow.
work related sense. Yeah. So I feel that true growth is in a place where you don't always feel comfortable. So if you might try to do one step over that boundary of where you feel comfortable, that's where true growth lies. And the more steps you take, the larger that area of comfort becomes. So the more scary things you are able to do. And I would say I'm very successful in that. I'm thus successful in that it also backfired on me. So and people saw that last year when I took it to the stage, even though I've serious stage fright. So and Lawrence helped me with that as well. So I'm really happy that I did and that he did. Yeah, the team responsible. Let's just say it has something to do with bananas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I'm really interested. How could you do scary things with bananas? But okay. Yeah, I really like that. The when you say semi-forcing people to try scary things, the yeah, my mind goes in all kind of directions, because the forcing, of course, is something that we prefer not to do. And at the same time, I recognize that when there are people that are in their comfort zone, that we need to find ways to help them go out of that comfort zone to grow. That's my understanding of the semi-forcing, or is it something else?
No, I think you're right on par on that. The time I say I challenge people. I understand that. For me, it's too sweet. It's too nice. If you want to make people do something scary, you cannot massage them into doing something scary. You have to say, you have to do this, and otherwise you won't grow in this sense. And if we have established that you want to grow in that direction, then sometimes you just need to have somebody that kicks you in the ass and say, just do it. And that's what I mean by semi-forcing. It's forcing with consent.
Yeah, I like that. I like that, forcing with consent. Yeah, and that usually, yeah. For me, there is a lot of roles where I see in the agile world where we can actually help people grow, and usually I prefer to use the word coach for that, because it could be in all kind of things, but it's coaching, mentoring. It's indeed giving that extra push for people to see what they can do, or yeah, what is the option. So let's move into that very first question. What is something that people usually don't know about you but has influenced you in who you are?
All right, so this is not a very interesting question because most people already know, at least the teams that I've worked with. I'm very open about this. So I have a background, of course, in academics, but also in sports. And I think the combination of being challenged to make it sound a little bit nicer than it was, to try to be better every day, and that, and trying to balance out my home office chaos with work related structure. I think that is something that people mostly don't know about me. The challenge part they do, but the second part they might not. So, and I'm a mom, so I think most moms and dads can relate that, of course, there's a chaos. I won't turn my camera, but this is my home office, and it's really a mess. Most of the house is tidy, clean-ish, but this part is my chaos. It's my mess. This is how my brain works when I'm at home. And when I'm at the customer, the organization, the client, the assignment, the teams, whatever you want to call it, um, I'm 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 chaotic. I'm energetic. I'm enthusiastic in my person. But then the things that I do, the plans that I set out, the steps that I take, they are very, very much structured. And I see that people really like that, even though it's a weird kind of balance. So.
Yeah, well, the whenever I hear people talk about a clean office, and I'm always thinking about the quote from Einstein that says, "Yes, if you if a messy office is a messy mind, what does an empty office mean? Yeah. So and for me, it's also, I see that a lot with creative people, that okay, we might have multiple things around it, but for whatever reason they stimulate us, but that doesn't mean that the results of what we're delivering is messy or it's bad in quality. And I think that's the, yeah, and it might work for other people, but for me and apparently for you, it doesn't work to have to be around in a fully clean way. um, every time I clean my office, very quickly things get organized in a different way, I would say. That's yeah.
And then you lose track of where everything is. At least that's my thing.
I
In
know
my mess, I
everything.
know exactly in which pile is what. Yeah.
Yes, that's something I recognize as well. And if other people start to clean up, then it becomes a mess in my head, because then I don't know where to find my books or other things. Yeah, so
Well, I
that's
can
definitely.
help you. Your books are right behind you. So
Well,
if
that's
you keep
some of
that in
them.
mind, you're fine.
There are others there. There are others there. So yeah, there is
Okay.
always some books around me. Um, Indeed, but a lot of my books are behind me. And could you tell me a little bit on how that influenced you on who you are?
The chaos.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I am not yet officially diagnosed, but I think I'm quite close to having or being ADHD. Um, for some reason, I like the energy of the chaos. I'm a very energetic person, even on the Monday mornings. Not at 7 a.m., but let's say 9, 10-ish. I'm quite energetic, and the rest of the week I'm as well. And it doesn't really drain me because I see what my energy does to other people that are lower in energy. It's kind of, it's like, how do you say that? It's very contagious, I guess.
Mm.
Um, Having a really tidy, neat environment drives me crazy. I need to have a mess. If there's no mess, I don't feel comfortable making a mess. So I don't get creative as much. And I feel that as an agile coach or practical agile management consultant, you need to be able to make a mess. And if that makes people uncomfortable, that's great because you want them to be uncomfortable. You want them to step out of their zone. And I don't want to step out of my zone because, that's my strength. So I need the chaos to be able to get other people um, more susceptible for improvement and innovation and creativity and everything that they can use that I can help them with.
I like it. And when you say when there is no mess, you're afraid to create a mess, it immediately an image pops into my mind from a book I read years and years ago. It was a book about um, how stores are organized, and so it's completely feels unrelated, but it talks about, so if you go into a store that sells clothes, most people in the stores, they keep all their the clothes very tidy, and that typically means that people are afraid to touch it. And when there is sales, the clothes are a little bit everywhere, and that apparently helps also for other people to touch the clothes and to sell more. And so the people usually working in a sales store, they typically, when there is a little bit of mess as clothes or a little bit untidy, they try to put it into nice little piles, but actually it hurts their sales. It's something that many people don't know. But I was blown away when I read that. Like, oh, the fact that you go into a store and the clothes are not perfectly aligned actually encourages people to also touch it and then buy things. So yeah. That
So it's really interesting because this is part of psychology. It's
mhm.
kind of how you perceive things, right? So if you have just a really white T-shirt, just a blank normal white T-shirt, and you put that T-shirt in a very low budget store, and you give it to one of the employees, probably they will try to make it look um, more classy than it is. So they will fold it nicely, they will steam it maybe a little bit. And then if you go to a middle budget store, they will probably hang it up. Like this is just a blank white t-shirt, nothing serious. So they will just hang it up on some of the racks. So it's visible, but it's not out there in your face. And then you have the very high-end stores who will probably also fold it, but they will fold it in a very chic way. And that will instantly make the item more valuable because of how you perceive it. So in this sense, when you put sales on it, everybody will put it on a hanger. And why? Because they don't feel like restructuring the item in a folded way. They just want to put it on the hanger so people can just grab it very fastly. So it sells a lot. However, if every store were to fold the t-shirt the same way, then the t-shirt actually decreases in size when you look at the high maintenance, the high budget store, and it will increase in value on the low budget store. So they will both like go towards the middle. It's very interesting. There's also a book about this. I forgot the title, but I will send you the title later. So if you want to read it or if you want to do something with it, you can do that. So it's all about perception. And I think that's also something that happens in Agile, especially when you look at products. So if you design your product messy, the product will have less. If they just a tiny bit of it, it will have greater value to your customer, but your business.
That's yeah. And so
you didn't see that coming, huh?
No, I didn't see that coming. But that's what I like really about. Okay, you say something, I add something, and all of a sudden I learn something else as well. That is why I like so much about these kind of questions. Let's move to that second question. If you had not been doing what you've been doing now, what would have become of you?
All right. So I have a background in academics. I'm actually a graduated biomedical scientist.
Wow.
Yeah, and a couple of other things as well. But I've always liked architecture. So I like the structure. Again, it's the structure, right? But also like the chaos of the structure, because you have buildings from the Gothic area where you have all these very tiny details, but these very long towers. But you also have, for example, something that is more recent. So I saw that in Amsterdam. It's called Amsterdamse School. And not the building, not the school itself, but it's the style. And it's more practical. It's more sturdy. It looks more sturdy. But I also really like, for example, the Mediterranean style. So a lot of just the white buildings and also the arches. And so I also like the Mid-Eastern style, but I also like Japanese style. So it's kind of everywhere for me. I like that. There's always structure, but there's also always chaos. And the fact that balances out, that makes it for me interesting enough, but also pretty. So it works. So yeah, so you sent me this question before, and I really had to think about it. So I wrote down one thing is, so I had a whole answer thing, and I wrote down one thing is for sure, I would definitely start some kind of company. So that's what I did, and created enough chaos with it to shake some trees in whatever industry I would have dipped my toes in. And I still like that answer.
And in that sense, that is what you've been doing right now.
Exactly.
So that is both the right and at the same time the wrong answer, because it's of course would have been something else you've been doing. But what I like about it is that this is if that would not been in an agile company or whatever you want to call Deep Red, that would have been in something else. And what would have been other options of creating a company? Were there other industries where you think you could have created a company?
Yeah, so my father died when I was really young, and he and my mom, they had a company. They were actually flipping houses, so they were trying to buy a lot of properties in the 70s and the 80s, and also in Amsterdam. I grew up in Amsterdam, and So they would buy a building, let's say a 4-story regular building in Amsterdam that you find, not a grachtenpand, but like a regular building, and they would convert it into apartments of 60 or 70 or 80 square meters, just for 1 or 2 people to live in. They also did something similar, but then with the top 2 floors being for students only. So smaller rooms, but then shared amenities.
Mhm.
And they made good money with that. And I think that I still want to do that, but I currently don't really have the funding for that. So I'm still working on that. But to do that,
You
I
need a
need to
basic capital to
challenge.
start with, indeed.
Exactly. Yeah, I need to challenge the status quo, knowing that I can do that with less, but I still need money. And even though I have some saved up, I don't want to use that for everything, because I also have a family. I have a young son. I need some money for that as well. And also in case of emergencies, you need to have something to buy your toilet paper with.
And more than that, I guess, because toilet paper
Yeah.
you can't eat. So yes. Um, Wow, but that's indeed a totally different kind of company, and at the same time, you're also changing the things that are, because that's a little bit what you do. I think what we sometimes do as agilists or as coaches as well is we look at a certain status quo and we change it to something else. And what I'm hearing is that your parents did something similar to buildings and turning it into another reality of buildings. And
Yeah.
did your mother continue to do that after your father died? If you share to.
No, she was unable to. So they had a company. They were not married at the time yet, and the law at that moment, they said that if you're not married, you don't have, because he was, yeah, it's a very administrative thing, but he was the director, the CEO of the company. Because they were not
Mm,
married, she didn't have any claim to it. I did, because I was his child, I was his blood relative, but I was only 5 years old, so I couldn't do anything. So the company was sold.
wow,
But
so
luckily,
sad.
everything turned out fine. It's just that she had to let go of that company, and she started doing something else. So she's doing fine, and so am I.
So
And I
that
just,
it, it,
yeah,
it
I just,
shows also why paperwork is important sometimes in life. I mean,
yeah.
that's yeah. I'm also
Some
sometimes
things are
thinking
good
like.
to put in writing.
Exactly. That's the kind of wording. I waited way too long before my partner and we got married, and yeah, if I look back and thinking like, yeah, we also got lucky that nothing else happened, because it could have made things much more complicated. But yeah, being young and foolish, you don't always think about that the paperwork can help at some level. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's a complete distraction
No,
to
it's
not your
fine. It's
life, but
fine.
I think
This
it's
is
an
coffee
important
talk,
part
right?
too. Exactly.
You also wanted to
My
know more about me, so I'm still answering that question along all the other
Mhm,
questions.
exactly. And you want, but I interrupted you. You wanted to say something else.
Yeah, so I've also been thinking, like, before I had my son, I was also very much into photography, and I think that
Mm,
is a very nice metaphor also for working in the agile industry, where you, as an agile coach or whatever you want to call yourself, you need to have sometimes a different perspective on the same problem. Sometimes you are just called in at an assignment, a company, a team, whatever, and they are looking at this problem forever in the very same way, and they need somebody that challenges them to look at it differently. As a photographer, you do the same. What I personally really like as a photographer is I photographed very simple things like flowers, forks, watches, stuff that everybody sees every day, but then in a different setting with a different background, different lighting, maybe a different angle. And I think that is what we do as agile coaches also, but then in the agile industry, looking at a problem, but then framing it differently, talking about it in a different way, and really focusing on what it can be, what it is as an issue, as a problem, as a situation, and not per se on why it is so negative, but also what are the positive sides of it. What have we learned from it? What can we learn from it? Where can it take us? how can it help our business, or whatever is applicable. And that is something that I really like in photography. I like black and white photography, so I like showing the unseen structure. Again, structures and chaos. And I think that's what a lot of people miss, because you have so many vibrant colors. Sometimes it is good to look at it in a grayscale scale, so black, white, and all grays, just so you can see the difference, the minimal differences in texture and structure. So now you can solve the problem, because you've eliminated a lot of the noise, a lot of the vibrant colors around it.
I like that, because indeed sometimes there, especially in a lot of the things that we do, it's a complex world, and yeah, some of the details might not matter, but grab attention, or yeah, and we don't know where to look. And if it's more black and white or grayish, indeed we might see much more. Hey, wait a minute, that looks a little bit off, or that looks a little bit on something that needs to get attention. And yeah, I definitely agree that people who've been around in the agile world and who have experience in changing things, that we might notice some patterns that others might not know, or we might ignore patterns that others pay attention to, but we focus somewhere else. So yeah, I don't see myself as a photographer, but I can definitely relate to the metaphor that you're using. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. And everybody can be a photographer. Just click and you'll
Yeah,
see.
but that's what wanted to say, is I can definitely have that kind of focus, but I didn't see myself as that one. So but for me, these days, indeed, photography is, well, these days I think it's always been, but photography for me is both things. There is the having the attention of, okay, there is a certain story that I want to bring, and then some photographers some photographers focus much more on some technicalities that I can't do. But yeah, I have a family member who's really good to telling stories with the camera, and but she keeps insisting that she's not a real photographer, and a real photographer friends like, oh, it's like, yeah, but you are a storyteller with pictures, and I think that's is as much important as technology. Um, and like with any industry, I think some people are focusing more on the techniques and others more on the stories. I think there is always a little bit of both
Is
that we
it-
need.
Yeah, I agree. We have more technical people. Let's see, let's call them developers, something crazy. And you have more people that look at the bigger picture. Let's say product owners, or product management, or agile coaches, or And I think knowing what your strengths are and how you can complement each other is something that will create a very strong team. And I can make so many metaphors with photography on this. You can have, the focus. You can have the lichtsterkte is it in Dutch, the aperture. You can have the well, whatever, lots of things. But the main thing is that you create a very nice picture that really relates to people, that people can relate to, that people can respond to, and that people can feel for some reason. And if you can make people feel agile, if you can make them live agile, even though they might not use the right, let's call them rules from Scrum or from SAFe or from Less or whatever, but if you can make them live agile, breathe agile, I think that is one of the biggest, but also the hardest steps for the agile coach to get to make people do that. I think that's, yeah. But if you do, then you will get thanks forever.
Yeah, I recognize that in a different way, but I recognize a lot of that. Again, thanks you for sharing. It gives again another insight in who you are and in some of these things. So, talking about insights, what do you consider at this moment your biggest challenge? At least the biggest challenge you want to share openly on the internet.
All right. So I've mentioned it a little bit. So I have huge stage fright, and last year, 2024, I took the stage 5 times. I can now proudly, officially call myself a paid international keynote speaker in
Mm.
my very on my very first time already, and that actually was in Belgium. That was at Proximus, which is a big telecom provider, I think, in Belgium.
Mhm. Indeed.
And me and a friend of mine, we did a talk about neurodiversity, and it was really nice to do that. It was for me a very new experience. I learned a lot, also to always check your zipper before you go on stage, because I was there and my zipper was just down the entire time. And somebody came up to me after the fact, and she was like, "Hey, so I didn't want to disturb you, but your zipper was down the entire time." And I said, "Of course, of course it was." And we did a workshop after that. And in that workshop, I said, "Well, all of you, you have no eye for detail, because I went on stage with my fly down. Nobody said anything about it. So you all failed." But in my head, I was like,
Okay. Oops.
yeah, of course, this happened to me. My very first time taking the stage. Yeah. So that was a kind of a thing. Now I always double check my zipper, and I also have that tape, that clothing tape that sticks things together, because I'm that scared of it happening again. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, last year, my other keynote, because I gave two. My other keynote was about bananas.
Mm.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. So yeah, and the other two talks I gave with Lawrence on a Scrum Day Europe and the OBEA Summit. And I did a talk at, I forgot. Oh, this is so bad.
But it
Anyway,
I,
for me,
I,
for
what I
just
like about this is that, yeah, you have the stage fright. You did it multiple times in the same year, and what I'm hearing is that the worst thing that happened to you is, okay, that was a clothing problem. That was not even a problem with the talk or anything. So
Oh no, no, this was the funny thing that happened. That still, haunts me a little bit, but I don't mind it that much. It's not like I had something
mm,
very, very pink underneath. I just had something black, so nobody saw that. I didn't
mm,
really, only the first row could probably see it, and on the pictures you see it a little bit, but then, it's not something that I'm super embarrassed about. It's just that it was just a moment where you were like, of course, it's happened.
mhm,
But the other thing, so last year I also keynoted at the Scrum Facilitators Original Conference. So the Scrum Facilitators are a group. They are, I think, quite well known in the Netherlands, maybe also in Belgium. And they give a lot of Scrum trainings as well. I'm a big fan of how they do things. They are very, how do you say that? Very amicable always,
mhm,
very jovial, but also very professional at the same sense. And that's a good combination to have as a group. But they have their own conferences, and I think last year was their third time that they did. I think that this year they will also do it. But I keynoted there about bananas. And literally everything that could go wrong went wrong that morning. And I was so
mm,
stressed. I was awake at 5 a.m. already because I was so scared of something happening that literally Murphy thought, "Hey, I got this law for you. Do you want to use it?" And everything went wrong. My car broke down. I couldn't get in the car because I was parked at a parking lot underneath a hotel. And people parked their car so close to my car that I couldn't open my door. So I had to get in
wow,
my car via the trunk. So I had to
wow.
do all these ninja moves
Mm,
just to get in. And then I had to drive, and then I have to close my trunk, and then drive through the hall. And then I got the wrong route because I drove there from the hotel the evening before, and there was nothing wrong with the route. So I thought, okay, so I'm just going to drive the same way. Nothing will happen. I know the road, so I cannot get lost. But my nav went out. The road was closed because they started doing some construction on it. So I had to find something else. So I drove the wrong way, and then I couldn't get to the venue at all. So I drove right like an hour or something, like everywhere but there. And then I had to call somebody saying, "Hi, yeah, I'm going to be late for my keynote." And he said, "Well, how you left the hotel like an hour and a half ago?" Because I called them like, "Hey, I'm going to leave now, and get my coffee ready." Or well, my hot chocolate. I don't drink coffee. And he laughed and he was like, "Okay, yeah, it will be here." And then he said, "Well, it's cold now." So I said, "Yeah," and I'm super stressed. And it also, he put me on speaker, and everybody there that was from the organization, they also heard it. And he was like, "Everything will be fine. Everything will be fine." And then I got my navigation on my phone because my car kit wasn't working. And then Lawrence called me like 3 times, and I said, "Lawrence, stop calling me. I cannot see where I'm going." So yeah, and then I got there, and then my laptop had no juice. Luckily, somebody had a charger. My phone died because I used it so much, and I have a really old phone. I need to change that. So yeah, I got there, and I got there 10 minutes after I was supposed to start. So I called them from my
Wow.
car saying that, "Hey, can the other keynote please take over?" So I switched with the afternoon keynote, Andy Hiles, and he was so nice that he was going to do that for me, because I was up to here with my stress level. It was not okay. It was not okay. Yeah, and there was Lawrence, and and I looked myself in this very, very tiny room, and I said, "Just leave me alone, leave me alone." And I put my earphones in, and I needed nothing. So yeah, that was my real experience there. Yeah.
But
And
that's
then
all before the keynote. And how did the keynote went at from that moment on?
yeah, so I recollected myself, so I regained composure, and I stood there, and I blacked out.
Wow.
I was like, "Okay, I'm going to talk about bananas, and I kind of know what I want to say, but I don't know exactly what I'm going to say." So for me, it was also a surprise. What am I going to say? So I kind of winged it. I had bananas with me because the idea was that I was talking about bananas, and it was a really good story about the role of bananas in creating high-performing teams. Um, and even though it sounds really weird, there was an actual story to it, and most people liked it also. But I had these bunch of bananas, and I was just giving people some bananas. And that was also for me something that kind of made me feel calmer, because doing something weird for me feels good, because it takes the pressure off, it releases the tension. So I just gave the entire audience bananas. I just threw one in the audience. Nobody was hurt. But it went fine. I think at the end, I asked a couple of people like, "Hey, do you have any feedback? Because this is my 3rd time speaking ever, and I'm really afraid that I'm, not that good." And people said, "You were fine. You were funny. You had funny anecdotes. The team photos were great," because I incorporated some team photos in the thing as well. People said, "I now know a lot more about bananas." And I also had a very, very short workshop kind of thing that 2 people that were there actually called me about, like, "Hey, can you give that workshop, the longer version, at my company as well?" So I did that as well. So that was very nice. So the general feedback was really good. But I couldn't for the life of me remember what I talked about. So I only had these bits and pieces of information. Like I said something about bananas and something about my team and how I got there. So I did create a story, but I don't exactly know what I said.
But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's negative. It could be that you were so much into the flow that actually things were really great, which is sometimes also happens with people. Yeah, musicians giving great concerts and they don't remember anything from it, but yeah, the audience might still have loved it.
Yeah, let's turn it to a positive thing. Let's say it was that. Yes.
Well, but that brings me back to the second part of that question. Why is that challenge for you a good thing?
So, like I mentioned before, right? I like to semi-force people to do scary things.
Mhm.
So there was this one team in 2023, And they were a very good team, but they were too comfortable with each other. And I think some agile coaches might relate to this, but that you're there and you're not really sure, like, what can you do to help improve them even more, because they are already very good, adjusted to each other. They are very stable. They're very predictable. They're very likable. Their communication is on par. Everybody knows what they're doing, and they're very transparent about everything. So you have a point where you just ask yourself, like, yeah, this team is already a 9.5. Like, I can break my back 40 hours a week trying to get them into a 9.6. But does it really help them or not? And then I also had these bilas with people, and I asked them, like, yeah, what can I do for you that would help you immensely at the moment? And I remember that she said that she was a non-Dutch speaker. She was only in English and in Hindi. And she told me that she was very, very afraid of speaking Dutch. She could understand it and she could read it. And she could say a few words, but she was very, very afraid of speaking it because she was afraid of sounding stupid. Because of course, she has an accent, and she thought that would make her sound less professional. So I said, well, you're never going to be better if you don't do it. And then after that conversation, it went on a little bit, two other things as well. And then I thought, yeah, maybe I should do this with this team. So really try to semi-force them into doing something that they feel not very comfortable doing. So we started doing our daily scrum in Dutch. So she knew what it was about. It was very short. It had a context. So she could try in a small environment. She could experiment what it would be like speaking Dutch. And we as a team, we knew that. So we helped her do that more. We tried to speak more Dutch around her. And then when she spoke too much English, not just some random words, but just entire sentences, we said, we don't understand you in Dutch, of course. So she had to speak Dutch. And even though she thought it was very scary at first, she gradually did that out of her own intrinsic motivation more often. So in the end, I think after 6-7 months or so, she started speaking more Dutch. She still sounded not Dutch, but she was less afraid of doing that. So she also went to the supermarket, for example, and just bought some bread and cheese and whatever she needed in Dutch. And everybody knew that she wasn't Dutch because that's, kind of obvious. But everybody was just so very nice to her, and she was just able to experiment with that. And seeing that it worked with her for the first 2-3 weeks, I started doing that with the rest of the team as well. The only backfire from this team was that in the end, somebody said, well, you say that you want the entire team to take steps into the unknown. Wow, it's a nice Disney reference there. You want us to try to do scary things and new things, but we never see you do the same thing. So what's up with that? You're also part of the team. And that hit me in a very positive and a very scary way, because I like being called part of the team. Scrum Masters most of the time are called part of the team, but Agile coaches are not. And I think it's, it stings a little bit. But then they called me part of the team, and I was really happy about it. And it really did something for me. But then they also said that, I had to do something scary as well. So they asked me, like, what are the 2 things that you're afraid of? And I said, well, spiders. I have a whole childhood trauma from that. So I'm never, ever going to do something with spiders. You just don't. I don't. And like, no. I said, and the second part is, well, I have stage fright. I have it so bad that I black out, I fall down, and it takes me like a good 5 to 10 minutes in waking up. And I've had that ever since I was a child. And it was very, very horrible in university, where you had to present like some of your findings as a biomedical scientist student. I had to present some of the researches that I did, and you had to defend your thesis and stuff like that, and I couldn't. I had a very bad grade on my thesis because I couldn't defend my thesis, even though the thesis
Mm,
itself was very well written and I got a very good grade on it. It just the presentation part was really sucky. So
mm.
the grade went down. But they said, well, they didn't say anything actually. They just looked at me like,
Okay.
so
You know what to
I
do.
knew what I had to do. So at my farewell party, I said, you know what, guys, I've really talked about this. We talked about this and I've really thought about this. And next year, because it was the end of the year 2023, I said, next year, I'm going to actively find something to talk about and I'm going to stand on stage. I don't know where, when, or how big, but I will try. I will do my very, very best to get there. And
Mm.
they looked at me with like a look of, okay, we'll see it when you get there. We'll see it when we see it. But yeah, that was my challenge for 2024. And then that happened 5 times. And I think two of the 5 talks, I saw some people of the team. So I know that they know that I did keep my word.
Mm.
So that was that was good for me.
Yeah, but I really like that yeah, how the team put that back to you. It's that's really when you have a good team for me, because then it's not just okay, we're doing it because we're asked, but we're also pushing back at the level like, okay, especially if they say, well, you're part of the team, so that I kind of was hoping that the story would go in that direction. So yeah, really nice to see it was. So yeah, I really like that when you say, I like to, yeah, when you started off with, okay, asking people around you to go for the next mile and then doing the same thing yourself as well. Um, that really is a nice thing. I want to move to that next question. What drives you? Because this is, in this whole story, everything we talked so far, I feel a lot of passion. I feel a lot of drive. So, do you know where that drive, where that passion is coming from?
Yeah, this is yet another question that I really thought about, and the answer is kind of strange. Maybe what drives me is um, my experiences with bad management in the past. And with management, I don't purely mean line management or something, but also coaches that weren't really there,
Mm,
your own manager or your mentor that wasn't really there for you, that when you really needed that, when you had a very serious help question for them, um, just letting me finding everything out by myself, even though I really needed that some guidance in there or somebody that would ask me certain questions. um, that really drives me because I know what it is like to have a bad mentor, bad coach, bad management. So when I work with people, when I work with teams, I always try to see the people and the team. So the individuals and the system of people, let's say. And that, of course, also the system of teams, depending on the role that I take. But not getting the support that I needed to figure out what I wanted, what I needed at the time, or where I was supposed to go, or where I wanted to go to, like creating a roadmap for yourself. So and being told that whatever I did, it somehow wasn't enough. It wasn't up to par. It wasn't up to what they had expected, or that combination is so detrimental for the progress that somebody can have, that I would never, ever, ever do that with the people that I coach, with the teams that I coach, the management or the organizations that I'm in, because I feel that you can have the best team, the best players in a team together. It would still not be the best team, because the best team is a team where people feel comfortable with each other. So, and I don't mean comfortable in the sense of um, the amount of work that they produce, or whatever, but if you feel comfortable towards each other by saying, hey guys, I have a really bad headache today, is it okay if I take off and leave my story to somebody else, or my PBI, or whatever you want to call it? and somebody's actually picking that up, that level of how do you say that? Team. Team is the word. That level of really being there for each other. That is something that I hope to achieve with all the people, the teams that I help. But not having had that myself, I know how hard it is. So I always try to make that part easier for people. Also, when you have people in your team that really, for example, they are a developer and they say, yeah, but I really want to try to be a business analyst. And they might be the best developer you've ever seen, the most senior person, and you don't want to lose them as a developer because you really need them. Not giving them anything in the direction of where they want to go will make them leave entirely. So then it's better to say, okay, so we still need your skills as a developer, but let's move towards a 50-50 role, for example, that you can look at business analysis and what it might be for you, and if you like it or not, you can research that path, but also still remain a developer. So we still have something. We can still use those skills. Let's say that in this team or this organization. Most managers don't look at it that way, and that is very, for me, that's very demotivating to a lot of people in teams. Halting their personal growth.
But do you know, because I hear part of it like, okay, there was bad support for you in a way, or you saw that happening bad for others. Still getting that drive to do then better and having it, is that something you always had? Like, is this something that little Sarah had as well, or when that started to
Well,
yeah?
well, I have a background in sports. I did competitive swimming.
Wow.
And from a very young age, I always heard that I was never enough. I was never fast enough. I was never good enough. I was never this, that, or whatever. I could always be better in some way. So let's call it relentless improvement was hammered into me. I had to be better every day on every level. I had to eat better, sleep better, do my homework better, be better at school things, be better
Wow.
at projects, be better at sports, be better at making and keeping friends, even though I never had really time for that.
And
Anything.
wait, is that a constant messaging that you received from others, or is that inside your own brain that you wanted to do that?
Both. So when you're really young, you listen to what people tell you. At least, now that I'm older, it looks like they don't, but they do listen. And if you keep getting that message day in, day out, every second of the day, that is your truth. So my truth at that moment, and then also later in life, was I'm never good enough. I have to be better every day, even though it's just a tiny, tiny bit. If you have 365 days and you increase your whatever it is, if you become better 1% each day, after a year, you're 365% plus compound interest better than what you were a year ago. So that's and I'm very bad at math. So if somebody I don't do math, but the idea is that if you keep improving, you will get better. If you keep doing, you will get better. It's not the strive for perfection, it's striving to be better than yourself. You're always challenging yourself. You're not in a competition with somebody else, you're in competition with yourself. You need to have new personal bests every day, every week, every month, every year. Unfortunately, that doesn't work in competitive sports. Then you are in a competition with other people. But I wasn't. So there was a moment that I very clearly remember where two moments actually. It was one match, one competition, one day, but it was two different moments. So the one moment I came in first, but my time was really off. It was like 2 seconds below or above what I would normally do. So I had no personal best at that moment, not even by like 2 seconds on 100-meter is a lot. I can say. So I wasn't happy. I was first, I got a gold medal, but I wasn't happy. The other
Mm.
time I came in fourth or something, but my personal best was it was a really big leap from my last registered time. So I was really happy because I was better than I was before. I had no medal, and people would just like, "But you're not even on the podium, so why are you happy?" And I said, "Well, you look at my time and blah blah." And then I was really happy with that, but I heard only in my surroundings saying that I didn't get a medal, so I wasn't good enough. In the other situation where I did get a medal, I heard people saying, "But you didn't get a personal best." So whatever it is, you're never good enough. You always have to have both in that sense. And then even if I had both, then it was you didn't wear our sponsored slippers, or your hair was a mess, or you didn't stay for the photo, or you whatever. People will always find something to, you
Mm.
know, yell about.
And you listen to the yelling. That's what I'm hearing.
Well,
You
yeah, I was 6, 7, 8 years
incorporated.
old. Like,
Wow.
would you not have done that?
Yeah,
So
that but
when I got older, much much older, then I kind of understood that people were trying to stimulate me to become better because maybe they saw something in me. But that is not what I had experienced at that moment. I didn't experience support. I experienced I don't even know what the name is, like rejection. Like I didn't feel that I wasn't good enough. So I had to have all that for people to see me as being good enough. And I never, ever, ever want to invoke that in other people. So I am really trying hard in the teams, in the people that I mentor, whatever, in making sure that people are good as they are. But if they think or that they want to improve in a certain field, I'm going to do everything I can to help them achieve that.
mm.
Because
Yeah,
that is for me support.
and at the same time, okay, no, that the whole thing that about never being good enough, what did it bring you?
The mindset of relentless improvement.
Hmm. So
Yeah, that's a very summarized version.
yeah, I like that because indeed the 1%, I don't know the exact number, but it definitely means that you're at 3,000, I don't know, 500 or 600 something better the next year. Indeed, if you have 1% improvement, I don't know the math by heart, but I know it's much more indeed, and that is the improvement that is much better than just trying to go for big improvements. It's indeed that small percent, and the relentless improvement is something that helps a lot of us, and that is indeed also that drive where that we recognize and that we see in you. Um, Talking about improvement and about achievement and everything, that brings me to that next question. What do you consider at this moment your biggest achievement so far?
So lately I've been hearing something, and it feels kind of a little bit strange to me, even though it might have been what I was hoping for. Um, a bunch of people in a very short time span told me that I inspired them in different
Mm,
ways. So inspire them to just try new things, inspire them to go on a holiday because they never did that, inspire them to eat something new, bake something new, anything really. Um, and I was always hoping that somebody would, see what I went through and see what I was doing with that, and saying that, yeah, you inspire me, I want to do the same thing. I also hoped that would happen, and then it happened, and I was like, why is it happening? What is
mm.
happening? And I think the biggest achievement out of everybody was Lawrence. Because I
And
met
how is
Lawrence.
that? How is he an achievement for you?
Right. So I met Lawrence when I was a freelancer, just minding my own business. Where most consultants know that you sometimes need papers to get a foot in the door, like certifications. And I saw that my SAFE POPM ran out, so it was expired. I did not know that you could just renew them by taking new exams. So that's on me. But I asked people saying, "Hey, I want to do a SAFE course. which one do you think I should do, and at which trainer? Because when I do a training, I want to be at the very best. If I'm going to spend that money, I want to have the best trainer that I can get. And I think I asked like 4 or 5 people, and they all said, you need to go to Lawrence. Lawrence knows everything. And also he's a nice guy. So I found Lawrence on Discord, and I dropped him a message like, hey, so I want to do a safe course, or I need to do a safe course. And people mentioned you. So which course are you giving? Well, recent, how you say that? Like in a very short period of time, between now and 2 months. Which course are you giving? And he said, oh, well, the next course is this one. It was a leading safe. And I said, okay, what's it about? And he said, it's the basic safe thing. And I said, great, I like basic things. And I had the POPM, but I took that like a couple of years ago, but I didn't really stick or something. I didn't really do anything with that. So I wanted to have the basics explained again. So it was fine for me. And I went to Lawrence's course, and I think that immediately we kind of hit it off. Like it kind of worked. The synergy was good. The energy was good. I feel kind of bad for the other people in the room because we had a lot of one-on-ones in that room where I just asked a lot of questions, and apparently he liked that. And afterwards, we also had good conversations on which other courses I could take after Leading Safe, and he came with things like LPM and stuff, and it was fine. And then I remember that we had a really good conversation, and we had a couple of meetups where we also went through as well. So we kept in good contact. And then I remember that there was this one time where I said, hey, Lawrence, why didn't you start your own company? Because he was at CBA for like 22-ish years on and off. And he said, well, I've tried, but then the people that I said yes to apparently said no to me after a month or two. And I said, why? He said, I have no idea. So I was kind of like this. But then because I'm chaos, like I'm embodied chaos, I said, well, why don't we start a company? And I think that was, I think, well, that's exactly how I am. I speak before I think, but I speak from what I feel and not exactly like, maybe I should have thought about it some more before I said that. Afterwards, he said yes immediately. Let me tell you that. He said, yes, let's go. And I said, okay, but then what are we going to do? And where are we going to, specialize in and stuff? Because he is a senior trainer and he was a management consultant. But he didn't have full-time consulting jobs because he was giving a lot of trainings, obviously, because that's also something that he's very, very good in. Me, on the other hand, I'm not a trainer. Well, let's say I was not a trainer, not for something outside my normal organizations. I did do full-time consulting. So it was kind of two worlds there. And then we talked about it, and we talked about it, and talked about it. And somehow we kind of figured like it doesn't have to be this. It can be this, where you have both worlds, and sometimes give training and sometimes be a consultant. And then within consulting, you have being a full-time consultant or a part-time consultant with 2 or maybe 3 customers at the same time while giving trainings. For me, that was, I couldn't see how that was working, but now I can. And by inspiring Lawrence to actually start his own company, he has mentioned lots of times to me that he's so happy that I semi-forced him to do it, to take that leap, to take that step into something that he really wanted, but never really had the courage to do. And he also said that he wanted to have someone that would bring out the best in him in this case, and never wanted to start a company by himself. So he said, it's good that we are not the same person. I'm very how do you say that? I tend to just wait a little bit, be more calm about situations, and you are one chunk of energy and you just say, why not? Just go. Like you have nothing to lose. And I said, well, I don't have anything to lose. But it's interesting that you think you have something to lose, because in my opinion, you don't. You have everything to gain. So why not just do it? Get everything that you want, that is there for you. But you have to get it. I cannot get it for you. I can show you the door, but you have to walk through it. In the end, I did maybe, kick him a little bit, so he just fell through the door. But he went through the door. That's the point. So I think that is my biggest achievement.
I really love the story. It's really very, very nice thing. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, both your part and Lauren's part. So sorry, really nice story.
Thank
Let's
you.
move to that next question. What do you have a personal agility tip to share?
Well, yeah, but not really sure if it's an agility tip. Just get shit done. That's it. Just get shit done. It doesn't matter if you're using Scrum or Safe or any other framework, or maybe not even a framework at all. Just look at the situation that is in hand, know how it can be improved, and take steps towards that. Just get it done. It doesn't have to be that difficult, just taking small steps, guided steps, steps that mean something, useful steps, steps that you can structure, but just get it done. Don't wait for things to happen, just do it.
I like how that also relates back to what you said earlier on, from very young age. Yeah, improving yourself, and yeah, okay, doing the thing that need to happen, whatever that is. So that is nice. And sometimes we forget that in the agile world. Sometimes people focus indeed too much on some of the whatever the methodology that they want to use, but they keep forgetting that the real thing is about getting the shit done. It needs to happen. The work needs to be done. So I think that's a really good tip. So thank you for sharing that. Let's move immediately to that next question. What have you learned about remote working? And before we jump into that, when did you start remote working? When was your first time that you did remote? Was that during when we all had to do it, or was that way before?
I think it was way before. So I started in 2000. Wow, I have to think real hard. 2014 at Capgemini. Yes, yeah, I'm getting old, so everything slows down, right? 2014, I started working at Capgemini, and I think it was also 2014 when I started working remote, at least for 1 day a week. So it was like normal. Also because my assignment was in Enschede, which is, well, you can Google it. It's nowhere near Amsterdam. I was living in Amsterdam at that moment. So for me, it was like 2.5 or so hours per train, one way. I didn't have a car, so it was terrible. But I really loved the assignment, even though it was so far away. So I said, okay, so can I do work here for 3 days and then 2 days from home, for example? And they said, yeah, it's fine. Just get your work done and all that. So that's what I did at Capgemini already. So 2014.
Wow. Okay. So way ahead of many of the other people. So what have you learned about remote working?
So this is actually funny. I learned that we need to communicate very, very explicitly what we want and need and by when. We actively shouldn't assume people have the same perspective or context as us. Meaning that sometimes you are in a situation, and because you've been in the situation before, you skip a lot of information. Not everybody has had that situation before. So by skipping that information, you are actually depriving them of maybe some very useful information for them. Also, they might not have the same role as you, so they might not have the same context or background as you. So yeah, explicit communication is something that not only by remote working, also working in person, is something that I'm a very big fan of. And that is something that I'm going to write a book about, or actually writing a book currently about.
Wow. And how do you do this practically?
Writing a book?
No,
explicit communication. Okay, so For example, with my teams, I always start with something like a team compass. I want to know who is the team, what do we stand for, what do we want, also on a personal level, what do we want? And I try to make people write it down, because if you need to write it down, you have to think about what you're going to write down, especially if you have only a small post-it, because you don't have um, um, how do you say that, you don't have the space to go forever. You have like a small post-it note, so it all has to fit on that. When they have done such exercises, I always tell them that if you are releasing, or if you have a sprint review, for example, always follow up with an email very shortly stating what you have discussed. Sometimes you have even recorded it, can be a good idea or not. Very shortly stating what you have discussed, who were there, and what are the next step to take, or what are the insights that you got as a team. So very explicitly mentioning what you have summarized from a conversation or a meeting will help in providing transparency in how you have experienced that situation. The same with if you want to talk to somebody about expectations, right? So, example, you're a product owner, and you need to have some conversation with a stakeholder, and you just don't really align very nicely, and you feel that there's some kind of friction. It might be good to just voice your expectations, like, "Hey, you are my stakeholder. This is what you can expect of me, and this is what I expect of you as a stakeholder." And then they can respond with sort of the same thing, like, okay, so I'm your stakeholder, you're the product owner that I have to deal with. This is what I expect of you, at like what kind of information, when, in what form, or at what meeting or whatever, so you know what they are looking for, so what is their language. Always try to find common language. And by explicit communication, I'm now mentioning, for example, words, written or spoken words, but also body language. Try to be explicit. If you are in a meeting and you're leading a meeting, try to use your body language also as a unspoken factor in this. So stand up straight, shoulders backwards. No, for the ladies, no heels. Because you are stronger to the ground if you have flat shoes. It's that. Or if you wear heels, no, how do you say that? Needle heels? Stiletto heels. Like
Stilettos,
the
yes.
small ones, just the block ones, the bigger ones. Trying to be really grounded. So you cannot be blown away. That's the whole psychological thing behind it. And for the men, don't wear a suit. Just wear something nice. But it doesn't have to be a suit per se. Just don't have any coffee stains on it. Pro tip. So just use everything that you got to be sure that you communicate what you want to say. So communicate the message, and don't communicate any underlying implicit maybes. Just be upfront.
So that's a lot of good tips, a lot of things to do. So I'm looking forward for that book, because it sounds like a really interesting thing to learn even
I will
more.
send you one when I'm done. When everything is printed, I will send you one. Definitely.
Yeah, looking forward. And if you need a reviewer even before it's printed, let me know. I might help out.
Thanks.
I have to be careful, because I promised that to way too many people, and recording this takes a lot of time and not much time, or less time for reading. But still, I'm really always interested in, helping out new authors and learning about more interesting kind of books. And talking about books, let's talk about the book that you brought. What's a book that you have read that you want to bring?
This book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. So I checked with you in beforehand if I could say fuck. So it's good that I can. So this is the book. I've read it a couple of years ago during summer break. I was next to a pool. We rented a house. I was next to the pool, and I was like, I want to have a book. I want to have a book. I just want to read something. I don't want to have a screen in front of me. I don't want to use my phone or something other than some music. So I just bought this book, and I have the English version. I know that there's a Dutch version as well, and I think maybe
Mhm.
like like other languages as well. But I really like the English version because I do a lot of team coaching in English as well. So I've given this book, I think, to 6 people already. It's not a very expensive book. I think it's like 20 euros or something. And it helped me a lot. It really did.
And could you give a few examples of how it helped you?
Yeah. So one of the things that I really liked about this book is the way it's written. So normally when I read books, it's work related or it's fantasy, and those are very different styles. I know that, but this book is somewhere in between, and also it's neither. The style of writing is very low key. It's very funny. Like I have giggled a few times on just the way that they written down some things, and it was very relatable, and I like that. And it helped me also in how I'm going to write my own book, but also how I want to communicate sometimes with people, knowing that you don't always have to be like boring professional, but can say fuck or shit sometimes
Mhm.
and still be the professional that you are, knowing that you have the knowledge and knowing how you can help this person, but also lowering the threshold for them to speak friendly to you. I would much rather have somebody that said fuck and shit like 100 times to me in like a 30-minute session than somebody that is trying to walk on eggshells in not trying to say those words. um
Mhm.
I um how the book also helped me is that it said, and I cannot say this as a quote because I probably mess up the words here, but in the book, the thing that I got from the book is that it's not about have it's not about giving more fucks in general. It's about giving less fucks, but then the things that you do give a fuck about, they are really fucking important. And that
Yeah,
is something
that
that still
this
sticks with
is
me.
for me. That was where the title felt a little bit strange because it's indeed um, it's caring less about the outside things like okay what words we use, but the things you do care about, 100% care about it, and but also focus in a way, yeah, not caring about
Exactly.
3,000 things, but the focus, and then yeah, caring so much about it that it's really fucking caring about some certain thing, but indeed a very focused way. um
Yeah. So
so
the book is actually more of a self-help book, I guess.
mhm.
It's about how to create a good life for yourself by focusing your fucks.
Mm.
And for me, that's very interesting because I am a person self-diagnosed ADHD. I have a lot of interests as well, but having books like this that I can relate to and that make me giggle, but also reading it and think, "Fuck, that's true. That's also true for me." Knowing that I'm not alone in this, and also then having really, really helpful, really practical, helpful tips in how to reduce your cognitive load to the things that actually matter to you. Um, and it it wasn't like overnight or so that it happened, but I did actively work on that. And now knowing that I have, let's say, 10 things that I give a fuck about instead of 100, it gives me 10 times the energy per item that I now do give a fuck about, instead of having to spread out my energy over the 90 things that I might not or don't really give a fuck about or give less fuck about. Um, and I'm not saying that I have only these 10 things. Sometimes I just also have other things that I give a fuck about. But knowing how to focus your energy and how to focus your cognitive load at the moment, and also being able to just let it go when you don't have that energy. So trying
Mhm.
to trying to order also the things that you give a fuck about in terms of importance or urgency, That is something that really helped me also now that I'm a mom, but also now that I've started my own company and have multiple things to manage a day, um, and also writing a book. So I would say I've given this book, I think, 5, 6, 7 times now to people in a team or a adjacent team that I facilitated or managed or helped out, and everybody comes back to me and they said, how did I not know this book before? So for the people that are watching this, buy this book. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
I should have like I should get something for this, but get this book. It will really help you as a professional,
Mm.
but also as a person. Definitely.
Wow, that's probably one of the most encouraging speeches given here for books. So thank you for bringing that. It is a book that for once that I've read, but that I do agree. And for people who I think the title sometimes is a little bit confusing, but it's really worth reading the book indeed. So let's move to already one of the most interesting questions for me, especially with people like you. We had conversations going in all kind of directions. So what question do you think I should also ask you, and what's the answer?
Um, so I wrote down, ask me about the bananas, but I've already talked a lot about the bananas. But yeah, sure, ask me about the bananas.
Okay, so now what's the story with the bananas?
Well, it's how nice of you to ask. So what it was with the bananas is that so I have a sporting background and I have a background in biomedical sciences, amongst other things, and now also in the agile world. And um, the so I really like bananas as a person. I like the
Mm,
fruit. I like the taste. It's easy. It's convenient. It's not that expensive. You can get it almost everywhere, and I always have it on hand. I also like cooking and baking, so I try to use bananas also in some recipes that I have. For example, of course, banana bread, but also pancakes and muffins and other things. Um, and the thing about bananas is they, for me, are the ultimate introduction item. So there are a few template sessions or things that you can do to introduce yourself to a team. Bless you.
thank you.
To introduce yourself to a team and get your team to understand you better, but also for you to understand your teammates better. For me, those are bananas. And why? I never start with the bananas, or I never start talking about the bananas. Other people start talking about the bananas.
Mm,
So I always come to a team and I have a bunch of bananas in my bag. I have a really big bag because I'm one of those people that have literally everything in the bag. So if you ask me for a battery for the mouse, I have it. If you ask for AirPods or like a headset, I always have an extra. If you ask me for a gum, I always have like a pack of gums or Smints in my bag. If you ask me for deodorant, I have both men and female, male and female deodorant things in my bag. Um, Almost anything that you can ask for during a day, I have it, including painkillers, even though I probably shouldn't. Um, but also bananas. So I go to teams with like 8 or 9 bananas in my bag, and I eat all of them. And so the first day, people are just really looking strangely at you after 4 bananas and be like, "Didn't you already eat a banana or 4?" Um, And so that happens a couple of days. And as they see that, they suddenly ask me about the bananas. And then that's my introduction period. That's my opening there. So I explain to them that I like bananas, that I cook and bake. So that's a little bit about me, that what my background is. So both sports and academics, and that I also do this to gain energy. And then I start to talk a little bit about what bananas do for you in terms of brain power, attention span, and body energy. So not just brain energy, but also body energy, and that it helps improving sleep. Coupled with that, I'm always full of energy. They kind of do 1 + 1. Not really true. most of the time, but 1+1 is, if we eat bananas, we get energy, so we get more shit done. That is not always true, but it is what I try to tell them. So I get people on the bananas. So I get my teams eating 1 or 2 bananas every day, at
Wow.
least one during daily scrum, and then one during lunch or end of the afternoon. And fun fact is, it does really help. But does it help because of the banana and what it does to your body? Or does it help because it creates a team? Because you're all doing this weird thing together. So it can be eating a banana. It can also be, doing this for a minute a day. I don't know.
Mm.
But it helps the team become a team. It gives the team more energy. It gives the team awkward moments, because how awkward is it to eating a banana and then looking in the camera like this? So, it's yeah, it helps. It does help. And so I've given a keynote speech about this, and then in a larger context and with more agile references. Um, and people actually seem to really like it. So I heard a lot of people that have found their banana. For me, it works. For me, banana works. But for other people, it might be a briefcase or shoes or a watch or a hat or something else. And I've also gotten a lot of banana photos with people with bananas saying, "Hey, I saw these and I had to think of you." And that is also something that is really both coach that jump from team to team or department to department, as it is for freelancers. Because as a freelancer, you need to keep working on your own brand, right? And what better way to start working on your brand by giving the teams that you coach or that you facilitate something that they keep reminding you of, or how do you say that?
Mhm.
That when they see something, they have to think of you. That is something that will linger on even though your assignment has ended. And that is something that where bananas worked for me. So that I also try to, when I coach other agile coaches or scrum masters that are jumping from team to team, find your banana and make it work for you. So that's a
Now,
little bit about the bananas.
now I'm surprised you called your company Deep Red and not Deep Yellow, but okay, that's a whole kind of different thing. Yeah, really wonderful story. How indeed we need to find whatever works with us and whatever, yeah, indeed how people remind you. And of course, I think most people have bananas around in the house, so if ever they eat, they might think of you. So that is indeed a good way of having people reminding and thinking about you. And thinking about you and thinking about other people, I want to move to already that last question. Who do you think I should ask next? And I know you have a
Ah,
couple of people you wanted to bring on.
yeah. So again, I thought about this. Also checking who you had in your show before, because now mentioning Lawrence would not be smart because he was already here. And you have one of my coachees already, Marilia. So I'm not going to mention them, but I am going to mention somebody that is currently helping me, I can say, a little bit in my journey to become an even bigger influence in the Obeya field, because I've
Mhm.
recently became Obeya coach under the guidance of Lawrence, our Obeya sensei. And this guy is one of the founders of the Obeya Association. His name is Dolf Reinders, and
And I
he's a
think
very
that's
fun.
him.
Yeah, that's him. Hi. Yeah, so he's going to be so happy when I say this. So Dolf is one of the founders of the Obeya Association, and together with Bart Bongers, they have every year they have the Obeya Summit. It's a conference where they talk about everything Obeya. So for people
Mhm.
that don't know what Obeya is, it is it is a Japanese term. It came from lean manufacturing. It has this whole nice Japanese root story. I'm sure that Dolph will tell you lots about, so I will not do that. But
Mhm.
Obeya is a visual management tool that we can use very well with Agile, combined with Agile. I think it's going to be one of the tools that every Scrum Master or Agile coach needs to have. And I think it's also very useful for product owners and business analysts, but also for product management and higher levels than just team level. It's something to make data very visual, but also challenging the data in the same way, asking, is this data saying something in the context of the answer that we want to have answered, or in the question that we want to have answered? And building a good OBEA is an art on itself. So if you want to, so can I do some shameless self-promotion here?
Go ahead.
All right. So if you want to know more about OBEA, Lawrence and I give trainings on OBEA. We give the OBEA fundamentals, the builder, the host, and the coach. So if you want to know more, go to our website or contact me or Lawrence. We will love to help you out in what OBEA course will help for you. And if you just want to know more in general, I also started a blog series almost about OBEA on our Medium, when we will all. I will ask Eve very nicely to link all of that below.
I'll add the link indeed to the Medium blog and to everything else in the show notes.
All right. So that was the first person that I mentioned. Do you want to know the second
yes,
and the third
go ahead.
person as well? All right. So the second person is not really working in the Agile field as a consultant or coach per se, but he actually has his own consultancy company doing something with test engineers, but also with Agile people. And his name is Christian Bouwmeester. He has a company called, yes, he has a company called Inquisitive. And this guy has years and years and years of experience in sales. But it's very interesting to ask him about how agile working or agile workflows inspire him in his sales. I think that's a very different perspective than most of us have. So I think it would be very interesting to ask him about that. And then the third person is a very dear friend of mine. She also lives nearby. Her name is Kim Hinch, and she is the founder and CEO. Yes, she's one of the founders and CEOs of Harbinger, a very new agile consultancy company. And she has a good voice. A really, like, not okay, so that sounds weird. So she has something to say, and I think it's really good that you would talk to her. So I'll just keep it at that. I'll just keep it a little bit mysterious.
And she's, well, I do know Kim a little bit. I think she's also very active on with Lego Serious Play, if I'm remember correctly.
True. She has her own company, also called Brickwise.
She was on my list, so the list is growing every time now. But because if everybody invites 3 or 4 people, it quickly grows. But Kim was on my list already for quite a while, waiting for someone to invite her. So I'm really happy that you invited her. So that's it. And I think you actually originally had given me another name as well. I'm not sure if you do remember another name that you gave. I hope I didn't mix up something in my slides. Do you know who this is?
Yes, Tiffany. Yes, that's true. I also mentioned Tiffany because Tiffany is working for scrum.org. And I am currently in the PST journey, and she has been an angel, also a little devil. And she knows why I'm saying that. She knows. But she is, I just recently in person met her. But we met, I think, 2.5-ish years ago online. And I feel very good connection to her, even though she lives in the States. So we are going to take this out of Europe and just, fly to the States to Tiffany. And Tiffany is somebody that has remarkable coaching skills remotely as well.
Wow.
So I think it would be very good for you to also talk to her, because she is actually part of scrum.org, like scrum.org, the organization.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So thank you for inviting all these people. Really wonderful. And I do hope indeed I can have similar kind of conversations as I had with you. It's been really a wonderful way to spend my Sunday morning with you. Um, for the people, Sarah, that want to connect to you and want to know more, what's the best way to connect with you?
All right, so I have a phone. Just call me. No, I think it's better to use LinkedIn first. I think that would be best. So I have a
And
personal LinkedIn.
that
That's
should be
it.
the
Yes,
LinkedIn.
yes, that's my LinkedIn, and we also have a deep red LinkedIn. You can
And that
contact
should
both
be
me and
this one.
Lawrence. Yes, you can contact me both me and Lawrence on this one. And yeah, we have everything. I think we have Lawrence has gone all out. So we have, I think, Instagram, we have Medium, we have I think we even have YouTube. Like, we don't do anything with that yet. But really, feel free to give us a call, both of us, or a WhatsApp or a message on LinkedIn. We are going to respond because that's what we do.
And I really like that. Well, and it's like I said, it's been really wonderful conversation. We spent, yeah, I think about an hour and 40 minutes, something like that, talking here. It's always dangerous to say because I don't know exactly how much or how long we started the recording after I started talking after I started recording. But indeed, it's been a wonderful time to have you here on that Sunday morning. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Eve. This was by far less awkward than I thought it would be. I'm always very awkward on camera, so yeah.
Well, that's
Thank
yeah.
you.
Somehow this seems to work out for many people. Indeed, many people are before very well scared is maybe exaggerated, but always a little bit nervous. How will things go? And then yeah, typically after 4 or 5 minutes, it just the conversation flows. So I'm really happy that people do dare to get out of the comfort zone like you did here today. And yeah, we see the result. It worked out fine. So I'm really happy with that.
Me too.
See,
Thank
Thank
you,
you for
Eve.
watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.